In this video, we are going to continue our look at the Mexican National Unit, and today we're going to focus on the Empresarios. We're going to bring up the Mexican independence again. We've talked about that already, but now it also happens during this period, and so we're going to continue our look at this time period when Texas is a part of Mexico. So 1821, Mexico gains independence. So if you'll remember in our last video, we talked about Moses Austin getting permission from Spain to settle in Texas. Well, now right after that happens, Spain is no longer. It is now Mexico, and Texas is a part of Mexico. And so after 11 years of fighting, Mexico is independent. On August 24th, 1821, Spain and Mexico sign a treaty officially ending the war. And this is one of the early flags here, and then this is the one that's adopted like a couple of years later. Lasts a little bit longer. And this is when Anglo colonization in Texas really begins. So after this point, right around this time, as a matter of fact, because Stephen F. Austin has been going about doing what his father set out to do. So he was a lawyer before this. He left his job to continue his dad's dream. His dad asked him to basically do that, and the family obligation to colonize Texas. His problem, as I already kind of alluded to, Moses had permission from Spain, not Mexico. So Stephen goes to Mexico City to convince the Mexican government to honor the grant, and they do. And so he is a successful impresario. The Mexican government lets it know, and the state government in San Antonio lets him know, hey, you are responsible for these people. We don't have the resources to govern all of this, so they are your responsibility. If there's a problem, it's going to be on you. If there's a problem, it's up to you to solve that problem. And he goes about that in earnest. He doesn't just do that, say yes. He actually goes about it in earnest and does look after the colony quite carefully. He is nicknamed the Father of Texas, and so that's just kind of a big overview of Stephen F. Austin. Erasmo Seguin, who is a native of San Antonio. He's Juan Seguin's father. So Juan Seguin is famous for his involvement in the Texas Revolution. This is his father, and he was a successful rancher, became active in politics in San Antonio. He helped write the Mexican Constitution of 1824 and approved that. He was appointed by the governor of San Antonio de Bejar to help Stephen F. Austin. Now, Stephen F. Austin is, basically charged with settling 300 families, and these are known as the Old 300, often referred to as that. This is the largest number of colonists. The largest number of colonists were from Louisiana. Next, Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Missouri. Now, that's not the only states. There were a few from other places as well, but in Stephen F. Austin's first colony, this is the majority of where they come from. So all southern states, you can see. Most were educated. In other words, they were literate. Educated doesn't necessarily mean they are highly educated, but they could read. They had schooling. And many were actually quite wealthy. This wealth often included slaves. Just under about 25% of these settlers were slaveholders, and in many cases, not a small amount of slaves. And some of these wealthy settlers may have brought, one of them as many as Jared Gross brought as many as like 90 slaves with him. And so they are setting up all along the Brazos River in particular, and they're getting property right on the river. It's good soil, good land, but it's also prime land for cotton plantations. And these cotton plantations are going to be an essential part of the Texas economy. One of the things about cotton is that it uses a lot of the resources in the natural resources in the ground, and so if you're not careful with your crops, you can pull a lot of the nutrients out. And so these cotton plantations, it helps to people move because their plantations may not continue to be as successful, and so moving out west was one way. Further west was one way to continue your success. This image here that you see, this is a sample of what many of the settlers may have looked like as far as when they're coming out. Um, this is not an actual picture of the old 300. This is probably 50 years later, but and not necessarily even Texas. Actually, I don't think it is in Texas, but this is similar to what these settlers may have looked like at this time. So where are these colonies, these impresarios? So Stephen F. Austin is the most famous of the impresarios. He's the first of them um, at this time, but he is not the only one. So Stephen F. Austin's colony, his first colony is here. You can see his name on others as well. We'll see a couple of others that we're going to really talk about. We won't talk about all of these. Lorenzo de Zavala will talk about some. He's certainly very active in the Texas Revolution as well. But Green DeWitt and Martin de Leon are also some of the key impresarios and more successful than others. Many of these others are not very successful at all. These other, right around here, these impresarios are much more successful. And you can see the rest of this is all Mexico. This is all the United States. Kind of noticing this map. Now, right after this, after Stephen F. Austin is getting people here and settling people from 1821 to 1822, 1823, 1824. Well, Mexico finally gets a new constitution. They had some rough times there with power struggles in the early days of their independence, but now they have a what we would call a liberal constitution. And what we mean by liberal, in other words, lots of freedom. Liberal means liberality has to do with freedom. And so there was a lot of freedom in this constitution compared to maybe prior constitutions. And it sets up a government that has three branches of government. It is now called the United Mexican States. They have representative government with Catholicism as the official religion. So there is an official religion. It created the state of Coahuila y Tejas, merging these two provinces. So instead of having Coahuila and then a separate state of Tejas, it is now one province, one state, and that is one of the things. So many of the people in Texas favored the Constitution of 1824, but they are not necessarily in favor of this particular part of it. So they do like that it gives states rights. States have a lot of power and autonomy to continue doing things the way they want to in their state. What they don't like, at least in Texas, is the merging of these two, because the capital is going to be in Coahuila, and so that's going to make it even more difficult to get kind of word to the capital. It's going to make it more difficult for them to be to have any influence over the colony or not the state, and so it's not particularly popular there in Texas. This particular aspect of the Constitution of 1824. And so, yeah, you can see here, Texas is not organized as separate because it's so small. Now we say small, look how big it is. It's huge, but it is not very widely populated. You're talking about maybe 4,000, 5,000 citizens that are there. That does not include the Native Americans living in that territory, because they did not consider the Native Americans as actively part of their state, because the Native Americans didn't consider them a part of it themselves a part of it either. For the most part, that doesn't mean that's not completely in every instance, but in general, the different groups, Native American groups in this region, were separate from the Spanish and then the Mexican government and the citizens there in this area of Texas. So this is that's kind of just the purpose here, is just to show you the map. This is Texas, this is Coahuila. So the State Colonization Law of 1825 is passed, and this basically gives guidelines on how to colonize Texas. The Mexican state of Coahuila y Tejas could disperse unoccupied land. In other words, they could give an impresario land and put it into their charge to disperse that to other settlers. And in particular, they were including settlers from America. It does not have to be, they could not only America, others come as well, but that is one of the, obviously, that's the main place that settlers are coming. And this is the law that every other impresario other than Stephen F. Austin used to receive land grants. He obviously received his grant before this law was even passed. Now, Green DeWitt, he is a native of Kentucky. He's often viewed as the second most important impresario. He begins colonizing Texas in 1825. He has headquarters in Gonzales, Texas. He had permission to settle 400 families, only ends up settling about 166 families by 1831. So you can see here, not as successful as Stephen F. Austin, but still a significant number of people, because it's not 166 people, it's 166 families. So once again, those families could be quite large, and then that would include like a household, which would certainly include slaves, because for each person that came, they got more land, and for each slave that was brought also included an inducement of more land as well. And so we'll see here in a minute that slavery was a big part of the settling of Texas. Martin de Leon, he's a native of Mexico, settled about 200 families near the Texas coast. He and his wife Patricia founded the town of Victoria in 1824, and Victoria soon becomes a center of trade between Texas and Mexico as well. Now, you may often hear the phrase G.T.T, or the initials G.T.T, which stands for Gone to Texas. It kind of gets its start. Occupants would write this on doors. People that were leaving the United States might write this, on their old house or whatever, and so people know where they went. But Texas was also had a reputation for harboring outlaws, and so it comes to being kind of a running from trouble or scandal or from the law. So, if you're in the United States and somebody's gone and somebody else says, oh, they're gone to Texas, well, it could be that they are not really gone to Texas. They're just running from trouble or running from some kind of scandal there in their home state, or running from the law or something like that. So gone to Texas kind of has a double meaning at this time, depending upon how it's being used. Now, as I said, slavery was a big part of the settlement of this region. Slavery was an essential component for the success of these settlements. And when I say essential, I don't mean that therefore it's okay. I'm just simply stating that for lots of people, if they were going to be willing to come from the United States, slavery had to be a part of it. Because they were leaving a slaveholding state where they were probably a successful plantation in Mississippi or Louisiana or Tennessee, wherever it was, and they were going to be coming here to continue that same way of life, and they would be bringing their slaves with them. The majority of those who came to Texas from slaveholding states with their slaves, and they planned to continue those cotton plantations there in Texas. But this was always one of the big questions was, is it going to be legal? So in 1821, colonists could bring slaves to Texas and buy land depending upon the number, and they got land. The amount of land they got would also partly be dependent upon the number of slaves they brought. The sale or purchase of slaves was forbidden in Texas in 1823. In 1827, the legislature of Coahuila y Tejas outlawed the introduction of additional slaves. So you're no longer allowed to bring slaves into Texas from other places. In other words, the slave trade from outside of the country is illegal, which it had long been illegal in the United States by this time. By 1808, it was illegal in the United States, and so now this is illegal here in Coahuila y Tejas. In 1829, Mexico abolishes slavery, but grants an exception to Texas. And then in 1830, importation of slaves was illegal in Texas again. So they're just reiterating these things because it's not always being really followed. And so we can see that this is one of the big issues for settlement in Texas, and slavery is a big part of whether that settlement in Texas will be successful.